Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the DX Osutoderu Hammer 50 from Kamen Rider Revice. On the front of the box here you can see we have the hammer, of course, with Revi and Vice. Over here on this side we have the hammer with Revi and Vice, and on this side we have the hammer with Revi and Vice. So we definitely have a theme going here. We also, of course, we can see that it is compatible with the Oren Buster 50 to make the Revice Slasher. It's like Revice and Slasher kind of put together into one long word, or Revice Slasher. So not too much going on the bottom here. It does show us that we have 3 batteries included, which is always appreciated. Spin around to the back. Again, you can see the combination here. You can see it says Revice Slasher. Then it just kind of shows how you can use the button underneath to kind of cycle through. We'll get into it, but there's a couple different things and sound effects we can cycle through. It can also link up with Vice stamps, which of course we'll take a look at. And then of course the combination with the Oren Buster 50. So very, very cool. Gonna go ahead and get this guy out of the box here and we'll take a closer look. So here is the Osutoderu Hammer 50 out of the packaging here. It's a little bit smaller than I thought it was going to be. Still fits pretty decently in my hand. I mean, it does look a little small, but for the most part, it's a decent size. I like the color scheme. I think the yellow and the kind of teal color work really well together. You have some nice metallic blue here on the handle. You have this kind of purple fin, which actually looks kind of neat. You're going to see what that's for later on. That's going to be part of the blade later on. But for right now, just kind of a cool fin. You have this kind of stamper-looking end for the hammer. Now, on the show, if I remember correctly, he kind of went around and was like, hitting things with the hammer, and it was reading the item through the end of the hammer. Obviously, this doesn't do anything like that. Basically, you have a button down here, and you have a trigger button, and you can hit this, and it'll kind of start a sequence. Then you can cycle through a couple different options with the trigger, and then hit the button again, and it'll give you some different sounds to kind of simulate, him whacking the end of the hammer with certain things. Now, if you just hit the trigger button on its own, just kind of the generic bonking sound. Nothing super exciting there. But if we go ahead and hold this down, so hit the trigger the first time, so the first option was kuruma, which is car, and then it kind of makes like a sound like you're constantly trying to start a car, which is terrible. And then it does the attack sound. So we'll cycle through these. So the second one was Drinku, and then it says some kind of drink splash. So for that one, you kind of get the sound of like when, a railroad crossing sign is about to go down, and then it says stop train. Come on now. Sometimes you got to really whack it. I think you're supposed to like hit it on the surface of the table or something like that. I really like the standby music for this one. So that's pretty much it for all the different sounds with the button underneath. You can also use a Vice stamp to trigger with this. There's a kind of a light reader right here. I'll try it one more time because it kind of cut it off. Sometimes it doesn't always read it perfectly for me. But this will just say Rex, so we'll try it one more time. There we go. So you get a decent amount of sound effects just with the hammer on its own. I think it's pretty fun. Like I said, you have the 5 options with the button underneath. You have the generic hammer kind of bonking sound, and then you can use any Vice stamp. Now, I can't read the Vice stamp, so it's not different depending on which one you use. It just knows you're using a Vice stamp. So this thing's not really a reader. It doesn't matter which one you use, just to clarify that. But we'll go ahead. We will bring in the Ouran Buster 50 so we can check out the compatibility with that. Alright, so to combine these two, the first thing you're going to do is push this large circle button here on the front, and that will allow this to swivel up and click into place. Then you're going to see inside here, there's another piece of the blade, which is going to pop out and click into place. And now you can see what I mean, how that fin piece up top is now part of the blade. It's a really nice translucent purple, which I really like. Now, technically, if you wanted to just use this thing as its own little sword mode, you technically could. It's not going to make any different sounds, though. That sound's going to be the same. The sounds from bonking it on the bottom is also going to be the same. So you can use it in the sword mode if you want, but nothing new is going to come of it sound-wise. How this is going to work, this piece here is going to slide into the top here where you would normally clip in the Vice stamps. And then you can see that there's a little connector right there, which this piece here is going to connect into. Now, I will say when this slides in, it's kind of wide, so it's not going to latch. So you don't have to worry about using this to remove it. You just have to use this up here, as I'm setting sounds off. This here is what retracts those right there. So that's how you get this in and out of the thing, because that took me a second. So we're going to go ahead, and when we slide this in, it should make a new sound, assuming I can line everything up. Sometimes I misalign these things. Okay, so it says Revice Slasher, as you can hear there. You do get a new slashing sound. It doesn't matter which trigger you hit. There's no gun or axe mode anymore. It's all just sword. So they're all the same there. So if we go ahead and bring our stamp back in. You get a new kind of standby sound. I really love these standby music sounds. And again, just to prove, it doesn't matter which trigger you hit. So you're going to get the exact same attack sound. It doesn't matter which one you'd hit. Both the triggers are the same because, like I said, there's just kind of the giant sword mode. I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's definitely a neat design. It definitely gives it, you know, a little bit larger mass for a roleplay item, because usually Japanese roleplay items are a little bit on the smaller side. So adding the two together gives it kind of a nice size. Plus, it's kind of neat. It's kind of a large sword with kind of like an axe blade guard for your hand. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, I kind of like this design a lot. And the color schemes kind of complement each other. They're not like so outlandish. This teal is not exactly the teal from the Ouran Buster 50, because this is pretty much all, everywhere there's teal over here, it's kind of translucent. So it's kind of like they switched. Like this is kind of the purpler color, which is now translucent here. This is kind of an opaque teal, which was translucent over here. So the color schemes, they're not exactly the same, but they complement each other, and it all kind of makes sense. So I think it's kind of a neat design, and I like the combine mode here quite a bit. So I think the Osutoderu Hammer 50 is a pretty fun little toy. It's got a decent amount of functionality on its own. It's got kind of a generic attack sound with the trigger. It's got 5 different options to cycle through with the button on the bottom. It's got the hammer mode. It's got kind of technically a sword mode on its own, but of course it does have the compatibility with the Ouran Buster 50 as well, which makes a pretty cool sword mode, which I think is neat. So I think this is fun. If you already have the Ouran Buster 50, I would say go ahead and pick this one up. If you passed on that, I could understand why you'd probably pass on this as well. It doesn't have a Revice stamp or anything included with it, so it's not like it's an absolute necessary purchase. But I think there's definitely some fun to be had here. I like the color scheme. Like I said, I like all the sounds. It can also have interaction with Revice stamps. It doesn't really read the Revice stamp, but it does kind of the same thing the O-Ring Buster 50 does, where it triggers the Revice stamp to say its own name. So you're getting kind of a compatibility thing there, but it's not 100%. Like, it's not a reader, but you'll get somewhat different sounds. Like, each thing will say its own sound, so those combinations are different, but it's not triggering new sounds in the hammer itself, if that makes sense. So I think it's a fun little role play item. I definitely am glad I picked it up. If you want to wait for a sale or something like that, I don't think these will probably be flying off the shelves, but they'll probably be around a little bit towards the end of the show. But I'm having fun with it. I think it's kind of neat. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.